Yes, I can. Go right ahead, Dennis.
All right, I'll do it again. Good afternoon, San Joaquin Gardens. This is the resident council meeting for June 2020. We have a full agenda here this morning, and we're going to begin with Jim Westgate, who gave us some wonderful words on Monday. They were so wonderful and profound that I have asked him to recreate in some form what he did on Monday to make sure that as many people as possible have a chance to hear what he said. And for myself, I just wanted to hear it again. Jim, you're up.
Can you hear me all right?
I can.
I unmuted myself, so yeah, it's not often you get to do a do-over, so that's really nice. Let me just say a word about Fresno. In 1992, when the Watts riot happened in LA, a group of leadership I was privileged to be a part of determined that we would never want to see that happen in Fresno. And so there was a no-name fellowship that was started that brought together civic leadership, government leadership, religious leadership around roundtables. And we talked about reconciliation, and we talked about building a community where there would be a sense of unity. And out of that came pastors' clusters. There are 13 pastor clusters across the city with over 300 pastors participating in those. And that laid the foundation then for when Billy Graham and Promise Keepers came. They said they'd never seen a city that had been as unified as Fresno. And I think it's because, once again, across all those sectors, there's been good communication. And I was part then of Fresno Leadership Foundation, or One by One Foundation, where we once again continue to cultivate those relationships. So when this happened, when this new protest happened, it was amazing how leadership has met at River Park. Both police, government, civic, religious leaders have met, invited whoever was going to be protesting, talked about how to do the protest peacefully. And we've had marches almost every day, and yet we've not had the violence and the looting in our city that all the other cities have had. So it's just really amazing when you see the groundwork that's been laid along the way, and how important that is in terms of managing the kind of protests that are happening across our city. When I shared the other day, I just said that this was not like any other previous protests that I'm familiar with, because there's so many factors that are built into it. First, there's the impact of the COVID virus, which disrupted every facet of our lives, and every area of freedom has been limited by this pandemic. And so the fear that just one wrong exposure or encounter might result in sickness and death is overwhelming over time. And it's created, I think, a real culture of anxiety within our own cities and within our own areas. Secondly, the economic collapse that caused over 40 million people to lose their jobs and any sense of security. So all of this has given a sense of instability and wiped out a hope of jobs in the future. And I think it's created a culture of anger and also uncertainty. And then third, there's also been, over the past, an erosion of trust towards those in authority and the cultivation of divisiveness in almost every sector of our society. So that dialogue and conversation have eroded to the point where families, churches, and communities have often been divided. And so this has created a culture of isolation. So when you take all of that together and then throw into this mix a series of racial atrocities committed by those in authority who are to be respected and trusted, you have an explosion of anarchy and chaos like we've not seen before. And I really do believe that this is not going to end quickly. I think this is going to go on for quite a period of time. And I don't believe we really have the leadership currently in our government to really be able to bring a measure of peace and understanding and dialogue. And it seems like there's been an attitude of force. And I don't think you can quell this kind of protest with force. There's only one way to overcome protest, and that is through dialogue, through seeking to work in relationships with those who are in pain. Martin Luther King said these words back in 1958. He said, "Hate begets hate, violence begets violence, toughness begets greater toughness. We must meet the forces of hate with the power of love." And I think that's very, very true. So how do we as individuals cope with this kind of a setting? First, we really have to look beyond our current circumstances and believe that we have a God who really loves us and loves this world enough, even though it's a mess. In John 3:16, it says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." And secondly, we need to see ourselves as ambassadors of reconciliation. Our voices really do matter. We can speak into the lives of our children, our grandchildren, and our friends to bring a measure of peace and reconciliation. 2 Corinthians 5:18 encourages us in this area. It says, "Now all these things are from God, who reconciled us to himself through Christ and gave us the ministry of reconciliation. Therefore, we are ambassadors of Christ." Third, we need to pray for wisdom and peace for ourselves and for the leadership of our country at every level. James 3:17 says, "But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere." And lastly, I think we really need to seek to pray for justice to be established in our land. In Amos 5:24, it says, "But let justice roll down like a river, righteousness like a never-ending stream." And Micah 6:8 says, "He has shown you, O mankind, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? But to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly before your God." So I'd like us to join in reading a very famous prayer, which is the one you see on the screen in front of you. And I think we can just read it together, and I think it brings it into our own hearts. "Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring love. Where there is
offense,
let
let
me
ye bring pardon.
Where there is discord, let me bring union. Where there is error, let me bring truth. Where there is doubt, let me bring faith. Where there is despair, let me bring hope." We've lost the screen. There it is. "Where there is darkness, let me bring your light. Where there is sadness, let me bring joy. O Master, let me not seek as much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that one receives, and it is in self-forgetting that one finds. It is in pardoning that one is pardoned. It is in dying that one is raised to eternal life." Amen.
Amen, Jim. Thank you very much. We're going to move on from that to our executive director, who has a few comments for us.
Thank you, Dennis. First, to follow in Jim's commentary, which was so eloquently done. And thank you again for providing that service to our campus and bringing us together. Wanted to let everyone know that Human Good overall, many of you probably got the letter from John Cochran in terms of the social unrest that is occurring throughout the country and even throughout the world now, in solidarity for those folks. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., John is inviting us to stand together collectively as Human Good, and have 5 minutes of silence in solidarity, acknowledging the wrongs that have been committed and recognizing the work that needs to be done on the long path to peace and justice. So John is inviting all team members, residents, family members, and friends of Human Good to join with him tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. To stand together in solidarity. So for 5 minutes, and 5 minutes may seem like a long time, but it's not too long and it's not too short. It is going to be a moment for us to collectively recognize the work that needs to be done, as Jim stated. So this is wholly voluntary, of course, for our team members and for our residents. But if you would be so inclined to join on your in your hallway, on your balcony, on your patio, some of us will be standing in front of the Valencia building, but we will all stand at every community nationwide within Human Good from 9 a.m. to 9:05 a.m. For a moment of silence and solidarity as a community. So again, this is wholly voluntary, but if you would like to participate and let your presence be known, we would welcome you to that, and if you are able to join in on that. So we have put that message out to everyone. It is short notice. He invited us to participate at noon today, so this is hot off the press. It's been placed on Touchtown. And again, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., from 9 a.m. to 9:05, we will have a moment of silence as we reflect upon where we are as a nation and where we hope to go, both within Human Good and beyond. So we would invite you to participate in that. As an update to my voice shot that was sent out last night, hopefully you all received that voice shot. And this is letting you know that there was no activity. We had team members monitoring police scanners and on standby to be here to protect the campus if needed. The path was going from River Park to Fashion Fair, so we would have been right in that path. But again, going back to Jim's commentary, I think our city was incredibly proactive, and when they heard about this potential protest that was unplanned and alluded towards some violence in terms of looting, that they proactively said, if you're going to gather there at 4, we're going to gather there at 3 o'clock. And they had moments of silence, they had prayer, they had individuals from different organizations join in, both political and non-political, and they came together in a really beautiful way. And I think that echoes what Jim said in terms of the legacy of Fresno, and who knows if that thwarted any potential looting or protesting that could have gotten violent. But we are so happy that nothing like that has occurred, both yesterday and before that. I think we're going to talk about it momentarily, if I'm not mistaken, but wanted to advise all of the residents that as we plan for reopening of our campus in terms of allowing for more activity and gathering and opening up some of our venues, that we want to ask all of the committees at San Joaquin Gardens to participate in that. So the overarching plan has been developed by Human Good. Our local TSJG edict community reviewed it, and now it's time for the true plans to come from the individual chairs and or committees. So Dennis and I will discuss that more later. but wanted to know that we are partnering with these committees and the residents as we plan for safely reopening our campus. Human Good has met with the Department of Social Services, who is the predominant regulatory body for the majority of our campus. So some of you might say you're getting mixed signals. Some of your family members are calling and advocating directly with the Department of Social Services, who says, oh, we don't restrict visitation. Anybody can do anything they want. The reality is the California Department of Social Services hasn't taken the stance on some of these things except to refer to the California Department of Public Health, who then refers to the CDC guidelines. And so what we're following are the CDC guidelines and the California Department of Public Health guidelines, which are in effect right now. So you might get different versions based on who you call, but we have vetted this and we are following all the guidelines that the state has put forth. That being said, Human Good has directly advocated on all of your behalf, saying people need to get their hair cut, for goodness sakes, and if they can't do it in our communities, which is a much safer environment, they're going to leave and go off campus to get it done, and isn't that less safe? And so they've really advocated. They've been in daily communication with the head of Department of Social Services in Sacramento. Our understanding is that by Friday, they should have some updated guidelines for all of us to follow in terms of visitation, salons, fitness centers, etc. So by next week, I'm hoping and praying I will have an update in terms of what those guidelines will look like. But just know that Human Good is not sitting back. We are right in the forefront of this, advocating for our residents to have a safe reopening and the guidelines surrounding that. I was asked by the dining committee to, before I get to the dining committee, wanted to remind everyone that prior to the pandemic, which seems like a lifetime ago now, but prior to the pandemic, we were recruiting for the executive director position here, right? And we had narrowed it down to 2 final candidates. Wanted to let everyone know that those two final candidates are still interested in the executive director role. Human Good is still interested in both of them in filling that said role, and that those conversations will continue in the future. So I'm in communication with the 2 candidates. Human Good has said that once we get through the crisis, they do want to replace the executive director here. And so I will have more commentary on that in the future, but just to remind folks that, number one, that change will occur at some point, and it'll be done in a very smooth manner. You're nobody's rid of me yet. But number 2, I think it's a testimony to the power of this community in terms of people want to be here. They want to work here. And the fact that these 2 candidates several months later continue to reach out to me to say how special this community is. They hope that they get to be a part of it at some point in the future, even during a crisis like this, where they're both employed and running their own communities. Just shows, I think, how amazing this community really is, that people would vie for this position. And that's because of all of you. You have created this amazing community that anyone would want to lead. And so that allows us to really pick from the best of the best. So wanted to update you on that. And then finally, I was asked to provide the dining committee update, which we were really excited that we held a dining committee via Zoom. And we did a really great job. People participated. We had 2 people phone in. The rest were on the Zoom call. There was lots of lively commentary, lots of positive feedback in terms of the quality of meals, delivery, etc. Lots of understanding as to how difficult that delivery must be. But the committee finally settled on a few things, which is number 1, they really want to encourage residents to continue to provide commentary, that the comment cards are still the basis of what that committee looks at, reviews, and discusses. And without said comment cards, there's not a lot for that committee to do. So we really want to encourage residents to either email the SJG Dining Services with their comments on specific meals with specific dates so we can follow up, and or to handwrite comment cards, and we will get those inputted appropriately. So really want to encourage the usage of comment cards via email or in person. And then finally, post the committee meeting, which was a very productive meeting, we also came to an understanding that consistency is still the primary driver of dissatisfaction amongst the residents, and that if we can fix the issues surrounding consistency, we will all be better off. So right now we've reached out to the leadership of the dining committee and the resident council and asked that they come up with their wish list in terms of what should our signature dishes be that we consistently use the same recipe and the same methodology and preparation of that meal, so that there is a consistent result and product being put out to the residents. So as an example, the fried chicken, if we all agree that this is the best fried chicken recipe, this was the best preparation of that fried chicken, we want to make sure that this is always done, that we all agree on that, and that's what is adhered to consistently going forward. So we will be, hopefully by the next dining committee, we'll be able to propose to the committee, here's our 10 or 15, whatever it is, signature dishes that we always want consistently made and prepared using the same recipes in the same way. And then the other recipes, there might be a little more flair and a little more artistic excitement that allows each of those cooks or chef to use a little more creativity when it comes to the recipe. But that there's certain things like the meatloaf that we just don't want to see changed, and we all want to agree upon that recipe moving forward. And then finally, if I may, in the dining committee, we are still actively recruiting and interviewing for a new director of dining services, which Anna Garrett is currently fulfilling on the interim basis for the community and doing a fine job. I tried to encourage her to move to Fresno from Phoenix, and she felt like her family was more important than us, which I disagree with, but I understand anyway. But we have had, we've interviewed about 4 or 5 individuals, of which only one we might be bringing back to a next round interview, which would be with me. But they're continuing to vet and accept applications for the Director of Dining Services for TSJG. And like we would normally always do, we will have dining committee members as well as the leadership of the resident council participate in any final interviews that we have for the Director of Dining Services position. So with that, Dennis, that would conclude my report.
Very good. Thank you very much. Now I will move on to my report. Last month, I've concentrated on communication and connections. And this month, my theme is independence and independent living and what that means here in our community. And you'll see why I decided to concentrate in this area momentarily. On July 4th, we'll celebrate our 224th anniversary of Independence Day here in the United States, where we celebrate the declaring of our independence from the yoke of Great Britain. Independence is certainly important to our country, and it is certainly important to all of us. The definition of independence, according to Webster's 7th New Collegiate Dictionary, is a quality or state, quality of state of being independent, not under the control of others, not affiliated with a larger controlling unit. This slide I call Independence, Me, Ye, and TSJG. Independent living at TSJG is not really independent. Most of us moved into TSJG to continue to try to live independently as long as possible. Many of us are determined to hold on to as much of that independence as we can for as long as we can. Holding on to that independence takes effort, but we're willing to put in the work because we do not want to be dependent until we absolutely have to. And then came COVID-19. As of May 16th, almost 300 people lived at TSJG independently. I put that in quotes. And suddenly, on March 17th, much of that independent living is taken away from us. On March 17th, we were asked to give up a lot of our independence in order to protect our community from the projected ravages of an international pandemic. Most of us willingly did that. A few did not. A few understandably left campus voluntarily to live with children for the duration. A few had that option and they took it. A few stayed while holding on to their independent ways. What have we accomplished by giving up some of our independence? So far, we've had 2 reported positive cases of COVID-19 as reported to DSS. Even those 2 cases are questionable. One may have been a false positive. One involved a part-time team member who was likely never on campus during their infection time. As a contrast, right down the street from us on Fresno Street is a place called Decorah Traditional Health. It's a skilled nursing facility. That one facility has had 14 deaths from COVID-19. They've also had 89 infected patients and 28 infected healthcare workers. And right now, as of a few days ago, they had 43 currently positive patients. I think that contrast is remarkable. It's a miracle that we've done so well here. And I don't use that lightly. Many of us have prayed for the protection of this campus and this community from COVID-19. And I really believe that those prayers have been heard. But it's also a testimony to the skill and the dedication and the professionalism of our administration and staff. I can only say thank you, team members, with a lot of exclamation points, because I believe that they have done an incredible job of helping us to protect ourselves. And I'd also say a thank you to you residents, at least most of you. Your efforts and your sacrifices have been integral to keeping the virus out of San Joaquin Gardens. Again, well done. But now comes the hard part. Can we continue to keep the virus out of TSJG while having more of our independence restored to us? Are you up to the task? And really, the jury is still out on this. Our first exam was on Memorial Day weekend, and we flunked. The great ice cream soda giveaway brought out a lot of people, and it became a social event, and there was a lot of unmasked people, and we did not socially distance well, and it was noted. Tomorrow starts the next test. The first major visible loosening of restriction occurs when food pickup is restored. And the question will be, can we go to Valencia and the bistro, pick up our meals in an orderly manner, maintain proper distancing, wear masks, and not turn the trip into a social event? That should be simple. We can do this. The old Nike slogan, just do it, please, so we can move on to the next steps. What those steps will be are largely in the hands of DSS and Fresno County Health Department. That's out of our hands. When those next steps occur will be a joint will be jointly decided by DSS, Fresno County Health, Human Good, and yes, it will also be decided by us. And how all of this occurs will largely be on us. The way it rolls out, the way it happens is going to be largely on us. Here's how it will work. I'm going to take the liberty of using the library here and Ruth Kallenberg, who I didn't clear this with. So this might be a surprise to her as well. Ruth is our resident librarian, and she's anxious to reopen the library, I'm told. So she will be asked to come up with a written plan for reopening while maintaining safe distancing, proper sanitation practices, and so on. Now, in her case, it's probably going to be a little easier because she already has a model to work from, and that Fresno County library system has already partially reopened with a plan in place. I've picked up books over there a couple of times already. If you haven't been over there, you drive up, you have books that are on hold, you call into the library and you identify yourself, and they bring the books out to you. They have a mask on. They bring them out on a cart. They step back. You get out of your car with a mask on, and you pick up your books. And if you have books to return, they point to the book drop that's right there, and you put your books in there, your return books, and they're quarantined for 3 days. And you go on your way. So there are going to be plans for some of what we're trying to do that will be helpful to us like that. But once a plan is proposed, then edict comes into play. I love acronyms. This is one. EDIC stands for Environmental Design and Infection Control Team. They've met once. It's the joint team member resident panel that has been formed to review all proposed reopening and restoration of independence plans. So in Ruth's case with the library, she'll submit a written plan to edict, and they will review them, and if they need to, suggest changes. But once that plan is approved, then if things are already approved by DSS and Fresno County Health, we can go ahead. If not, we have the plan ready and we implement the plan when they give us the go ahead. But from there, it's on us. How much independence and how soon we regain it will depend on our behavior. If we all do our part, much of our independence can be restored over the next couple of months. If we don't, some of it will not be as readily granted. If we don't, some of it will be taken back. We'll have to have a redo. The hard part is really still before us. I'm going to give you 3 more acronyms: PPP, POP, and PPB. How's that? As an aide, here's something that I've done to make sure that I do my part. This is my personal plan. I would challenge you to do something similar. PPP stands for a personal protection plan. POP stands for a protect others plan. And PPB stands for proper personal behavior. The PPB challenge is to make a written list of what you consider proper personal behavior for yourself going forward over the next few months. Once you've made your list, ask yourself the following questions. Will I commit myself to living this way for the foreseeable future? Will I live this way for myself? And will I live this way for my next door neighbor? When I moved in here, I signed a contract saying that I would live here according to the written rules and regulations of the community. But I also entered into an implied social compact with all of you to live responsibly in your midst. I've tried to live up to this implied compact by living in a way that is best for the common good. And really, the golden rule still applies. Treat your neighbors as you'd want to be treated yourself by living in a way that is in their best interests. Successful independent living requires living in a responsible and caring manner. It requires behaving as an adult rather than as a young child. Terry and I have one daughter who really challenged us every step of the way as far as personal responsibility. She wanted her independence. She fought for her independence. And we had to fight back because we knew that she was going to destroy herself if we allowed her to live as she wanted to live. She was a young child. Some of that, but that's what young children do. They fight for their independence. Some of them do it quietly, some of it do it overtly. But that's just part of youthfulness. Hopefully, they outgrow it. They mature. They become an adult. And in the same way, and in some of our cases, we've gone through being a young child, and it's like a bell curve. We've gone on to adulthood, and sometimes I think as we get older, we slip back into those childish ways where we want that independence. We hold on to it so fiercely, and we fight for it so hard. It may not be what is in the best interest of yourself or your community. POP is my plan to protect you from me, to protect others' plan, to protect you from me. PPP is a personal protection plan, which is to protect me from you. It's really easy to do the POP part, to protect you from me, because all I have to do is I have to follow my own personal protection plan diligently. The best way I can protect you is to protect myself, both from an active infection or from becoming an asymptomatic carrier. If I protect myself, I'm automatically protecting you. And what does that look like? Protecting myself. This is a personal plan. I have written it down. I refer to it. Inside my home, it involves washing my hands, often and thoroughly, drying with paper towels or hand towels that are washed daily. It involves minimizing face touching. When necessary, using paper towel tissue or clean face cloth. If you look beside my computer right now, there's a roll of toilet paper. I still want to touch my face. I won't let myself do it without using some toilet paper or a paper towel. Around here, we sanitize our bathrooms, our phones, our keyboards, and our mouses regularly. For us, that means using ozone as a sanitizer. When I'm awake, I have a mask around my neck that I can instantaneously pull up as needed. Sometimes the doorbell rings. It's very easy to walk to that door and open the door forgetting that I don't have a mask on and I don't have it around my neck. If I have it around my neck, I'll probably remember to pull it up. Also, we do laundry very regularly and very often here. Those are a few things I'm doing inside the four walls of my own home. Outside my home, but inside the walls of TSJG, I have another list. I avoid close physical contact with anyone other than Terry. I maximize physical distancing from others. They say 6 foot is the minimum. To me, it's got to be more than that because I'm not sure that I can estimate 6 foot properly. So my preferred distance is 12 or 24. 24 is better than 12. 50 is better than 24. I stay away from people when I'm out and about on the grounds. I also stay out of common use buildings as much as possible. There aren't many of them open around here anymore, but I haven't been in Valencia maybe once in the last 3 weeks. I just want to stay out of there. I want to avoid you and physical contact with you, and I don't want you to feel uncomfortable around me. I also avoid larger groups. Not yet a problem, but it's going to be, especially inside, especially when physical distancing is not being practiced, especially when others are not utilizing masks or not wearing their masks properly. We started a Friday night little get together out here at Tuscany Commons. The first Friday night, I was very uncomfortable being there because people were too close together. They weren't wearing their masks properly. And so I pretty much don't go back. I also maximize my use of personal media as a means of social contact with others, using the telephone and Zoom and so on. When phone or Zoom is impossible or impractical, in-person social contact should be outdoors with distancing and masks. I walk every evening, but I do it at a time when fewer people are around outside, early mornings or evenings when most team members have gone home. That way I can stay away from the few other people that I see out there who are also walking. So that's outside the house. Here's probably the biggest challenge, is outside the walls of TSJG. I minimize going outside the walls. I haven't been out that many times. When I go, I stay inside my vehicle as much as possible and use a drive-through pickup if it's conceivably available. I also avoid congregate settings, especially those involving sitting down inside for any length of time. That hasn't been a problem yet, but it's going to be as the restaurants and that kind of thing reopens. I avoid family gatherings where others have not been practicing isolation and distancing. My only sibling, my sister, lives locally. She has a large family, and they are not practicing isolation and distancing within their extended family. And so we have not been to a family gathering for some time because of that. When shopping, I go at a time when stores are likely to be empty. I've been to Food Max twice, and I've been to Winco once over the last 3 weeks. If you go at 6 o'clock in the morning when they're open, there's almost no one there. There's a few store workers who are stocking shelves. I don't like going at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'd rather go at 10 o'clock, but it's better for me to go. If I'm going to go, then it's better to go real early when the store is likely to be empty. I avoid stores where occupants are not wearing masks. I did observe that Food Max appears to be better than Winco, at least the Winco in Clovis. When inside the store, as much as possible, I avoid others. If I start to go down an aisle and somebody's in an aisle, I go to an aisle where there's no one. That works well at 6 o'clock in the morning. When I get home, I change clothes and I wash those items. These are the personal kinds of things that I do. These are things for me to protect myself so that I can protect you. Every one of you will approach it differently, but hopefully you'll sit down and think through it. What are the things that I'm doing? What are the things that I want to do? And how can I go about doing it in a way that is safe? Not 100%, because none of this 100% safety, no risk is not going to be possible. But we can minimize the risk down to almost zero if we simply use our heads and think through it and commit ourselves to doing it. We can do this. If we persevered for 2.5 months, we can make it for a few more. And it may be some months that we have to do it. In closing, take care of yourselves. And if you do, you'll take care of your neighbors. One last thought on last month's emphasis on communication and connections. We still have the TSJG party line open every Sunday at 3 o'clock and every Wednesday at 3 o'clock, except the first Monday of the month, which this happens to be. But we have a good time on there. There's a core of about 15, maybe 20 that typically show up. We'd love to have you come by. There's nothing profound that happens. Sometimes it's pretty inane, but we have some laughs together. Sometimes good information is shared. So it's an enjoyable time for those who have been coming by. You get an invitation by email every time, like the day before or early of the day, and we would love to have you drop in. With that said, Mr. Boyd, do you have some comments for us?
Yes, I do, Dennis. By the way, thank you very much for your leadership, Dennis. I appreciate you taking the time to walk us through the new future and what may become our new norms, and really appreciated your comments today. If you'll put up that first slide, Dennis. I've been starting to report to you our census figures. We started that in February, if you recall. And I took out March and April. I took out March because it was so similar to February. April, we started and had a very busy schedule, and I didn't report. So I'm showing you the contrast here between February 28th and May 31st. In independent living, 298, and as of May 31st, we have 284. Assisted living has grown slightly from 54 to 58, and memory care has stayed fairly consistent at 27. And where you see the biggest drop probably is in skilled nursing, and Jessica has reported on that issue, and hopefully that number will start changing soon, but it's gone from 50 to 40. So total residents, 430, February 28th, and May 31st, 409. Apartment vacancies have changed as well. In February, we had 1 in Tuscany. Today, we have 4. Sequoia has remained fairly stable, but I think that's because we've had some move out, but some move in, even during this period of COVID-19 isolation. Piazza, we've gone from 4 to 7, and Milano 7 to 8. So a change there of 7 more apartments as of May 31st that are vacant for a total of 24. Some good news, we have a deposit in Tuscany, 1 in Sequoia, and 1 in Milano. So we're grateful for our staff that's been working diligently to try to bring in new prospects during this time. I want to share with you, I was going to do this in March, but it just wasn't appropriate knowing what we were going through. But I want to share some information that came from the Human Good Conference that was held in early February in Southern California. And we had access to those video conferencing that was happening and to the presenters. And these excerpts are taken from that meeting from representatives who spoke to that group in Southern California in early February. And this was, of course, prior to the outbreak of COVID-19. So their comments come from various research studies on the aging process and give us things to ponder as Human Good develops strategies to improve our quality of life. So these are just little snippets from those conversations. The changing workplace, it appears that we're looking more towards flexible hours and days. We've already seen that implemented here, for example. There's more consideration from working from home. Our son, who lives in the Atlanta area, is a traveler for his company. He's often off in different cities on the East Coast. And they started working from home very early on and have actually found there's been a 15% increase in production from having done this. In fact, they are now looking at and questioning why they have a big office complex in downtown Atlanta and rethinking that whole process. There are returnships and job shares. Now, returnships basically involve our gals. These are gals who have grown their families. They're now very much just husband and wife usually, and they're ready to return to the work field. And so this new term being coined, returnships, we often hear about job shares where two more share the same responsibility. We kind of see that with Elizabeth and with AJ kind of sharing the responsibilities there during the week. Also being discussed more, and it's more in the San Jose area in the high-tech industry, but they're looking at 4-day work week. Lots of people like this. 3 days, more of a chance to spend family time and do those things that families need to do. So this is something that's maybe on the horizon and will be something forthcoming. Here's a snippet, just a few more to share, and I'll finish here quickly. Millennials think of work as something they do, not a place or position held. When people ask you, what did you do? How do you usually respond? I thought about that, and that's something for us to think about, how we normally respond when we talk about that. Okay, next slide. I thought this was kind of interesting. Older adults are so bossy. I think bossy is misspelled there, but you get the meaning. They have forgotten how to play. I looked up the term bossy thinking, well, we don't have bossy people at TSJG. And the definition basically not only referred to individuals who try to get others to do what they want them to do, but it's also about people who are wanting their own way. And I thought, I probably qualify under that part of the definition. I'm that way sometimes. Okay, next slide. There's supposed to be a time when we move from adulthood to elderhood, which focuses on relationships, not on attainment. The focus moves to who you are, not what you have. The change to who you are helps us to make our world a better place by helping us to grow emotionally, socially, and spiritually. And just think of the many times we sit at meals, or used to sit at meals together, and learn about each other's background. So important as we talk about relationships. Here's one that I think we all could benefit from. I know I certainly can. Unless we learn both sides of the issue, we really don't understand the issue. We get pretty locked into our belief system that gives us our view of things, but that's suggesting that we do our very best to find out what the other side is thinking. And that so applies to what's going on in our world around us today and what's been happening this last week in our cities. Okay, and lastly, encourage people to speak up. Better outcomes will result when more people take part in the conversation. I thought that was interesting because we encourage you all to participate in that, and you've done a good job, and keep it up. And Dennis, that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Hey, Nancy Van Gelder has informed me that she is busy with her neighborhood ambassadors, but she doesn't really have a report for us. But I know they're out there trying to stay in contact with all of you, and Nancy's doing a great job. Kathy Self has some minutes for us to approve. Kathy? Hello?
So I would like to ask any committee chairs who have a report that they're giving today, if you could email that copy of that report to me, it would really, really help me out with taking care of the minutes. And also, I'd like to remind everyone that we're seeing on Sunday in the Tuscany Circle, the laundry, excuse me, the laundry circle, at 9:30 in the morning. So please come and sing a few hymns with us. It's really, really wonderful to see each other. And now I would like to ask someone to move that we approve the minutes of our last meeting.
If somebody would make that motion and identify yourself.
They're all up, they're all,
Uh, Okay, I'll make the motion, Kathy,
all
to
right,
approve the
Dennis?
minutes. I'll make the motion.
I'll
Very
second.
good.
Jim Westgate seconded.
Jim Westgate, thank you, Jim. And all in favor, I'm just guessing that you're voting yes. I'm hoping so.
Or forever hold your peace, huh? This does get awkward at times, folks. All right. All done?
All done, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kathy. All right. Kit has reported to me that the financial report is the same as last month's. We haven't had any income and we haven't spent any money. We haven't written any checks. We probably had a few dollars of interest income come in during that time, but essentially, if you go back a month, it'll be the same report. Wanda Bagley, our team member ambassador report. Wanda's been busy with running Jack back and forth to Stanford, so she sent me, asked me to give her a report quickly. The team member recognition program that we started in January has been suspended until we can properly honor our selectees in person. If you remember, we honored Mark Rogers from maintenance, Colleen from dining in January, and then February, I think it was, Alexander and Plea, both from dining. We had a great time. We loved being able to do it. It was done in Talladay, and we've decided that we want to do it in person, and we're going to wait until we can get back into the Talladay and do it right. These all receive certificates of appreciation and small monetary gifts. Hopefully we can all eventually meet together and resume this program. In the meantime, we'll soon be announcing a new email address that you can use to send your kudos of appreciation to various departments and individuals. Much like we have a dining email address, you will have one for all of the other departments. These will be collected, and Jessica will integrate them into already existing ways that Human Good continually tries to recognize team members. We want to keep praising these people. We want to keep encouraging them. They're doing a great job under more than difficult situations, and we really want to bring our praise to bear on their efforts. Along with that, Wanda would like you to also know that the annual fundraising campaign that ends in December when bonus checks are given to all team members will launch in July. Last year, you were very generous with your gifts. We hope you will continue to do so during these tumultuous times. We will have further information on how you can participate at next month's resident council meeting. Committee reports. Elizabeth Mendez, acting on behalf of Leela Folkers, who is still sheltering in Colorado, I believe, would like me to let you know this. Most of her efforts involve Touchdown and things like that. They're adding more content to Touchdown. 3 great courses are now 3 times a week. Terrace Travels, the PowerPoint presentation of different countries has also been added. She would like me to remind you that June 17th is the deadline for the summer scavenger hunt. I've found 2 of them on my walk around the perimeter. I haven't found the others. Within about 15 minutes after it was announced, my wife had found all of them and had turned her card in, and she's hoping that there will be some kind of early bird award. Lifestyle Enrichment also is just waiting on Human Goods direction as to when they can safely open the gym and start hosting activities. So they're poised to begin as soon as possible. The other committee report is from this afternoon is from John Dennis, Safety Buildings and Grounds. If you could unmute John if he isn't already. And John, do you have a report for us?
Can you hear me now?
I
Yeah.
can.
All right. We had a short meeting and we only had 2 comment cards. One was very complimentary. The other was just routine. Brian indicated that the window washing was in this programs, and I think by now it has been completed. He also has ordered his first astronomical timers that will replace the mechanical ones, and we hope that works in the Tuscany lighting situation. We had one concern about the blank spots in the Tuscany. Brian indicated that he has ordered another 100 yards of bark, which he plans to use in the Tuscany neighborhood. Brian also indicated that they have completed the quarterly alarm testing, and they're in the process of changing the filters in our complexes. For residents concerned, Maxine Spencer would like to have some folding chairs around the south courtyard in the Sequoia, around the benches. Brian said that he would take care of that. We had a discussion about the proposal for the third gate off of Fresno Street. We were wondering if they were going to have a lockbox for the fire department. And we were informed that there would be a lockbox for quick access by the fire department. It will be the same as the one on the main entrance. And so that they can use both, either or both. So that's good. I hope they don't have to use it too much. We had a real good comment card praising Daniel for the great job that he did on some television work. So that's always pleasing to have. We also had a concern about the gardeners of the office complex south of the Milano building. They were pruning the hedge back and they were destroying some of the flowers. Brian said that he would try to catch them and see if they could let our man do it ourselves, and it will be much better. I don't have anything else at this time. The meeting was rather short. I would like to say the mailbox area is open, and please get us some comment cards. We're eager to see if we can solve your situations readily and quickly. So thank you very much.
Good, John. Thank you. Terry Painter reports that she sent out 2 sympathy cards and 3 get well cards in May. Russ Mitchell, who is responsible for new resident introductions and the bios, has now indicates that there's a new updated resident biography binders are now in the club room, in the bookcase next to the TV set. This is all of your bios. You're encouraged to look yourself up the next time you're in the Valencia building. If you do not find your biography, you're one of the lost battalion of about 100 residents without biographies in there. We hope you will take a do-it-yourself info half sheet and write up your own autobiography. Boy, we could have a lot of fun with that. If you have any questions or comments, please call one of the biography specialist group. Well, we got a new group, Dolores Quebe, Eleanor Beal, or Russ Mitchell, and they're all in the book. No committee reports this month from Fun Band Singers, Library, Vintage Boutique, Dining Services, Social Concerns, Country Store, or Current Issues. Bob Dow, if you're on there, could you tell us where we topped out at number-wise?
I don't know if Bob's on today, but I counted 78 people.
Okay, so 78 participants.
Yes.
So some of those were couples, so probably about 85. Probably about 85. Okay, next resident forum, Monday, June 22nd, 3 o'clock via Zoom. Next resident council, Wednesday, July 1st, 3 o'clock via Zoom.
Where's she?
Got rolled over.
At this point, we normally excuse 10 members. We're going to unmute everyone because Jessica and Michelle are still